Well, winter is upon us and I've got a snow machine that won't idle correctly. It's just surging, wavoom, wavoom, and I can't get it to quit. So we need to diagnose the problem first, so let's talk about that. Typically what happens when we have a surging problem, we have a fuel starvation problem. So some part of the fuel system is clogged, there's not enough fuel getting through to the engine, that's creating the surge. So what we need to do is clean the low and high jets as well as the emulsifier. However, we're only conducting these steps because we've already taken some initial assessments of the other parts of the engine. First one being the spark plug. Make sure your spark plug looks okay. Secondly, it's a no-brainer, but if you have old gas in your machine, change that out, replace it with new gas, see if that solves your problem. Also check your fuel filter. That could absolutely be the culprit. But keep in mind, not all of these machines have inline fuel filters. Some of the fuel filters are actually in the gas tank where you pour the gas. So after you've checked those three things, maybe made some adjustments, and it's still surging, then you need to follow these steps. And let me show you just how easy this is going to be actually. Quite simply, I'm going to be cleaning the high idle fuel jet first, along with the emulsifier. The reason is those two are the easiest to get to. We don't have to disassemble any part of the motor in order to get to those parts. If we still have an issue after that, we'll need to clean the low speed jet as well, which will require us taking the shroud off. But like I said, let's do the easy stuff first.
Let's quickly talk about what type of equipment we're running here. This is an Aaron's snowblower. I believe it's 24-inch, and we've got our Storm Force engine right here. And let me just show you the fuel filter I was talking about earlier. I'm gonna do the cap real quick. Look in there, and that's our fuel filter right there. So unfortunately, we have a full tank of gas, but I'm gonna show you a quick trick in order to help that fuel from not spilling everywhere. First thing we need to do is, of course, shut our fuel off. So turn that to the off position. Okay, we're going to be orienting our snowblower in a different way, so we are worried about the gas. So what I've done is just take a target bag, cut it up, and then just screw your cap back on. That's going to seal it up nicely for us so we don't get a bunch of leaky fuel. Okay, at this point we're going to be draining a little bit of fuel from our fuel lines. The carburetor is actually right up under this shield, right behind this guy. A lot of other videos have you taking this off at this point. We're not going to do that. We're going to leave it on because we have access to our carburetor right under here. So let me show what we're going to do.
Okay, this is a bottom view of our snowblower here. We've got our float bowl right here. This is what we need to access. First, I want to drain some fuel out in order to, kind of mitigate gas going everywhere. So we need to loosen this screw right here, or this bolt, and that will drain the fuel bowl. So I used a 10mm socket to kind of break it loose. And then you can go in with a Phillips head screwdriver and just take it off the rest of the way. You're of course going to get fuel coming out of this thing, so don't forget to get a catch can.
Okay, our next step is to tilt the snowblower forward and just rest it on the chute. And you might get a little bit of gas still kind of coming out of the car, but we've got a lot of it out of the float bowl already, so you shouldn't have too much drippage. If you do, have a piece of cardboard down here, it'll help you.
As you can see, we now have access to our float bowl. You might be thinking to yourself, could you have just left the wheels on the ground and gone from underneath? The answer is yes, you can, but this just makes it a little easier. We now have gravity at least halfway on our side, so we're not going to be fighting falling parts and things like that. Anyway, let's get started.
First thing, look at your situation here and see if you've got anything in the way. As you can see, we've kind of got a few cables in the way, so I'm going to disconnect. This looks like a ground strap, so 10mm, and just disconnect this. It'll hopefully allow us to have a little bit easier access to those to the float bowl.
One helpful thing that I did was zip tie those cables. That way they're just out of the way for you.
Now what we need to do is remove our float bowl. So this is again 10mm. Just back this off. Don't lose your screw. It should come out and you'll probably get some gas coming out of there too. But this is our float bowl. As you can see, it's a little grimy in there. Not the best. So we're gonna go ahead and keep working. All right, and in this cylinder right here, we have our fuel jet, and that's what we need to get out and clean. So theoretically, you should be able to take a flathead screwdriver, one that fits, and just twist that out. I was having a little bit of trouble with that, getting enough torque on it to make it move. So I found
a flathead with a little bit broader head. It's a little bit thicker right here. And I was able to just kind of fit that in right here. Then take my ratchet drive with a 1/4 inch socket on it. And I was able to get a lot more torque on it and able to spin it out. So if you're having trouble with just a regular screwdriver, try this. All right, once you've got that jet backed fully out, it's not just gonna come out for you. We're gonna need to tip our snowblower back onto its wheels. Get your hand under there in case it falls out, but more than likely we're gonna have to wiggle it around or take our screwdriver back up in there and just kind of work it the rest of the way out. And it did not pop out, so we're just gonna get a screwdriver and wiggle it the rest of the way out. And after working at it a little bit, I've got it almost all the way worked out. I'm just kind of using this pointer tool and kind of getting it right in there and just working it back and forth like this. And there we go, came out. It took me a few minutes to do that, so if you're getting stuck and frustrated, don't. Just keep working at it, you'll be fine. One other thing we want to get out of there is our fuel atomizer. This is just, I can't remember what it's called, but it basically injects air into the gas to help atomize the fuel. So what I've done is just taken a very small Allen key and just worked it out. So the mower is actually on its side again, and I've just kind of pressed this so I got it loose. So now gravity should do the rest when we tip it back over. And it did, fell right out. And these are the pieces we were after. We've got our jet right here and our fuel atomizer right here. Also the float bowl, I mean, check that out. It's a little grimy in there, so there's absolutely the case to be made that some of that grime got down in the jet and in the atomizer, and we're just having a fuel starvation issue because of that. So what you need to do is take some carburetor cleaner and just really go through and clean these out. If you have a wire brush, just work it in and out of those little holes as well. Same thing for the jet right here. If you have a wire brush, just work it in and out of the jet if you can. And then just clean your fuel bowl out. I'm not going to show that on film. Just take some time and clean these parts up. Now we'll also be going to clean the carburetor just in general. I'm going to shoot some parts cleaner up through here, maybe up here through the intake. Just if you see a spot that might need a little bit of cleaning, go ahead and hit it with some carb cleaner. That's all we're going to do here. Not too much. All right, at this point we've got all of our parts clean, so now it's just a simple matter of reassembly. Remember, if you kind of got this twisted around, the big kind of fat end butts up against your jet like this. So it will go in this way, followed by the jet. And just a quick tip, when reinstalling the jet, make sure that you are not binding up the threads. If you feel like it's going in difficult, back it up, try again. You do not want to mess those threads up. Now we'll get our float bowl back on. And if you disconnected any, a ground wire strap or another cable to kind of get them out of the way, don't forget to reconnect those as I've done here. If you zip tied anything up, don't forget to clip those zip ties. The snow blower is all cleaned up and put back together. Let's go see if we solve the problem.
Unfortunately, cleaning the high-speed jet, the emulsifier, and parts of the carburetor did not solve our problem. I kind of figured as much. They didn't look very dirty. I cleaned them very well though, so I'm confident that those parts are okay. It's just that we need to move on to something else. Remember, we're doing the easy things first and moving on to the hard ones. The low-speed jet requires a little more disassembly of the shroud, but it's not a big deal. I'll walk you all through it. I'll put a link for it right here, put a subscribe stamp right here, so hit the subscribe first, click the link later, and come along. I'll show you how easy this can be.